So we talked a little bit on the phone earlier, Marika, and there was a situation. The new Columbus City Police Chief says it seems to be a uh, domestic violence situation. Unfortunately, we have a 1 year old who is dead and a mother who was shot by the father, according to police. He has since been arrested. Um, it's a story that's all too familiar, and there are a lot of women in these situations who feel like there might not be anyone available to help them. And then by the time a situation like this rolls around and they call 911, it's too late for, unfortunately, that child. What would you say to those women?
There is hope. There are people out there that um, are there to help you. There's people that understand. Me, myself, being one of them, right? And it's why I started the organization, is because I've been through it. I think a lot of people don't come forward when, what happens behind closed doors is sometimes is it's it's a lot, right? So you keep that to yourself. You don't tell people that you're, what it is that you're going through. It's embarrassing. It's it's frightening. It's a whole bunch of elements involved. um, but what I found personally is once I really did come forward, and I didn't come forward on my own, the domestic violence assaults that I went through brought me there. But once I got there, there were people that were there to support me, right? There were people at my workplace, there were the shelters, there was people there once I spoke up and once I said something. And again, like me, there's people who really get it. I understand. I understand I, way more than I could say I understood about 15 years ago.
How does a woman start that conversation, and who should she start it with?
I think she should start it with somebody that she feels comfortable and safe with. It doesn't always have to even be a family member, right? It could be someone at a shelter. It could be an advocate. It could be someone like me. It could be just a friend or somebody that they feel safe with. Sometimes people don't talk because you get judged a lot, right? You want to know why you're staying and why you're going through it. And when you're in the middle of it, nobody wants to hear that, right? Sometimes I want to have somebody to talk to, someone to help me find resources. But sometimes women don't come forward because they get a lot of negativity when they do. So I think it's somebody that you feel safe with, somebody that you feel comfortable with. And again, doesn't have to be a family member. There are so many people out there that are trying to help women who do need somebody.
Tell us about your organization.
Battered Not Broken is a nonprofit organization that I founded after my last near fatal assault with my ex, who's in prison now. I had been assaulted once before, went back and stayed, and then when I got ready to leave, again, a woman is in the most danger at the end of a relationship. Is when the second assault happened, and it honestly was just me going through the whole judicial process, going through the whole healing and recovery process that Battered Not Broken was born. I just felt like I wanted to be able to help other people with what it was that I was going through, because I can't say that I didn't have people. I had family members that were there for me, but I didn't have anybody that really understood, didn't judge me for going back, didn't judge me for, I didn't have that. And that's where Battered Not Broken came from. It came from um, literally a letter that my ex wrote me when he was, after he had assaulted me. And I remember writing back to him. And one of the key points of the things that I said is, "You think you broke me, but you only made me stronger." And that is what pushed me, like, to prove that I'm not going to let this situation break me. There is life after. There really is. I think so many women think, and we stay because we think, again, we have children by them. You figure nobody else is going to want you. I mean, all of the things that nobody wants to openly admit and say why we stay. And so I stayed for that. I was the father of my child. I was already a single mom. You think nobody's going to want you. So you stay, and you stay, and you make excuses and rationalizations. And at some point, you have to make the decision to leave. But sometimes the decision is made for you. Just kind of like the horrible situation that happened with that poor baby and the mom.
What was
But
your
there's
first thought when you read about that this morning or saw about it?
broke my heart. It broke my heart, and it's a trigger for me. It's a trigger for any woman that's gone through that before.
Yeah.
You know, I've gone through it where I've had my kids in the house where my children could have been harmed. I've had to run away and leave my kids in the house. So I've been there, and it's scary to think that for the grace of God, that could have been me. That could have been my baby. It's a huge trigger for me. It gives me chills just to talk about it. But it's very upsetting, very, very upsetting.
Now, through your organization, do you guys, so you help women get placement into shelters, but do you also help out with the filing of the charges and to making sure,
Absolutely.
yeah, tell us about that because
Absolutely.
it's not just about getting out, but it's about following through as well.
Yep. I literally just went through this process literally since COVID. The whole protection order process and everything has changed since COVID. It's changed since they now have a new unit there, which is so much nicer than what it used to be. Women used to have to sit out in a waiting room where anybody, perpetrators, could come by. Now they have a room where you can go into, you file your report, um, and it's an easy process compared to what it used to be. It's so easy. They make it, I don't know, I wanted to cry myself when I took the last young lady to go because I remembered how daunting the process was before I went. And now it's so easy to go, you file, there's a process that you go through, but you get your protection order the same day in most cases. And then you come back to, they, have to serve the perpetrator or whatever. You come back, but the last young lady that I went with got an order for 1 year. I think it's one year, 18 months or something of a protection order. That's the first step, right? After you leave is going through and doing those things. And yes, battered, not broken. And I personally do that. Like, so I walk women through the process. I let them know it's not easy. I will say, pull your big girl pants up because it's not easy. It's not a once and a done. Like, you would think, especially with my case, it was very, very violent, right? And I had named him, it was him that did it. And it still took 2 years to bring him until he was sentenced. So it's not an easy process, right? The process, that part I told you about, the protection orders, is simple, but it's the hearing process. And then stuff gets continued, and it's a process.
Yeah.
So getting in the right mindset of going through the process, and all the while knowing, especially if you have children, it's what you need to do to keep you and your kids safe. So we help with that. We have a women's group that we literally now have virtually, and women from all over the country, all over the world join in. We have women from England and Africa and just different women that come into this group and share their stories. And it's so therapeutic, even for me, right? Somebody who's gone through it. It's so nice to be around other people that get it, that don't judge you. And then the way that you find all these different resources in all these different places is amazing, because some people find resources in different ways than others did. So it's a nice collective group of women that are just there to help and support each other. And that's what's needed. Like, whether you're still in it or you're trying to get away, it's good to have somebody to help talk you through it.
Marika, there are women right now who are watching this, and this situation might be all too familiar to them. They might have a knot in their stomach right now. This could be me tonight. This could be my baby tonight. What is your message to them?
My messages to them is to follow your intuition. Your gut never leads you wrong. Like, if you know that you are in an unsafe situation, if you have just a little bit of just a little bit of doubt that this man is not good for me, or he's not good for my children, or he has a temper, that's all you need right there. You don't need anybody to tell you to leave, to go. You take what you feel in your gut and you go with that. That's literally the best thing that I can offer to say is you trust your gut. Nobody, you don't need me or you or anyone else to tell you it's time to go.
And
It's
when they do, you'll help them. Your organization will help them.
absolutely, I will. There's so many other organizations out here that will. And again, I personally talk to every single person that calls. Like I've been there. So it's part of my, I believe my purpose is to be able to be there and support others. So yes, whoever is listening, if you are caught in that in between stage, the should I stay, should I go, reach out. Reach out, and I or whoever you reach out to, I'm sure you guys are going to list resources on here.
Absolutely.
There's always somebody out there to help you. If it's not me, there will be someone else. But please trust yourself, trust your gut, and get help.
Marika, anything else that I have not asked that you would like to add?
You've asked some really good questions. I just it's not even really so much as what you've asked, but I just want women to know that you are, I know you guys cut and pull things in and out of the segments, but you're not crazy. Like, I think that was the number one thing that I thought in this whole long relationship that I was in, that it was me and that I was crazy. And sometimes people believe that they deserve the treatment that they're getting, and nobody deserves abuse, whether it's physical abuse, emotional abuse. Abuse comes in all forms. This story that we're talking about today, unfortunately, is the worst that there is. But there's also emotional abuse and psychological abuse. And I can almost guarantee you, this poor mother, before it got to this, there were all types of little signs and stepping stones, or whatever you want to call it, that got her to this point. It didn't just, nobody just wakes up and does this and goes through this, right? This character, this horrible, nasty, ugly character in this man has always been there. And I promise you, she's seen it long before it got to where it was today. So just want to reiterate that abuse comes in all forms. This here may not be your story, right? You may just be going through trying to figure out, is it emotional, or is it, well, it couldn't be abuse because he hasn't put his hands on me. Yes, abuse does still exist, when no hands are put on you. So I think that's something that we have to educate our women on, to reach out. When you, again, it's what you feel. It's what you feel down here in your stomach. He doesn't have to put a hand, he or she, because it's not just men, right? Whoever doesn't have to put a hand on you, but can beat the heck out of you emotionally and psychologically. And when you feel that, reach out and get help.